Blackrock CEO Larry Fink goes on CNBC today and says Bitcoin is a legitimate financial instrument and there's a role for Bitcoin in every portfolio. This is very bullish as the price of Bitcoin continues to move upwards. And reports are coming in that the Ethereum spot ETFs will be approved next Tuesday, July 23rd. This is very bullish for the entire altcoin market. And Donald Trump selects his vice president, which is pro-crypto Ohio Senator JD Vance. We're going to break this down and much more. Let's get into it. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, we got a lot of bullish news, so please watch and listen to the end. First, let's talk about Bitcoin. It is over $64,000 today, seeing a very nice V-shaped recovery. We are getting very close to the confirmation of this move back upwards and to the move to higher prices, to new all-time highs, of course. And I'm very bullish, guys. I've been here for multiple bull and bear market cycles. I've seen this story before, and I want to share with you all not my feelings or emotions, but the facts. Why am I bullish? What data am I looking at? So let's quickly run through some items. First up, I want to let you guys know that Bitcoin moving upwards has liquidated a lot of bears. So $360 billion in shorts were liquidated just yesterday. And the DXY continues to break downwards. So that's a very positive sign because we know there's an inverse correlation between the dollar currency index and risk assets like Bitcoin and crypto. In addition, that DXY has a breakdown target to a value of about just below 100, which is about 99. And here, analyst Titan of Crypto says, important update for Bitcoin and crypto. As you may know, the dollar currency index is inversely correlated to Bitcoin and other risk assets. DXY confirmed downside price action with a double breakout on the weekly time frame. This could be very bullish for risk assets. So guys, we're seeing signs here of continuation of this bull market. In addition, the money supply globally, the global liquidity M2 money supply continues to rise. So here, just looking at the US M2, we are seeing a reversal from the bottom that took place in 2023. Obviously, you had a big correction in 2022 as the Fed started tightening. Now things are moving upwards, and it's not just the US, but it's globally. The reason I'm sharing this with you is that we have seen a correlation between the rise of global liquidity and risk assets. Now, we also have Tether and USDC stablecoins continue to mint. Today, just this afternoon, 1 billion in USDT was minted. And I've been sharing with you guys over the past months and weeks and so forth of both USDT and USDC, millions and billions being minted. A lot of this liquidity is going into the crypto market. And if you've been subscribed, you know I've been sharing this with you guys as one of the metrics I'm paying attention to, right? We want to look at the market holistically, charts, liquidity, macro factors, and so forth. So very bullish. Also, we continue to see that the inflows into Bitcoin ETFs have been rebounding. They have been increasing significantly. And here we got news that Fidelity's fund hits a $10 billion milestone amid big inflow week. So we saw smart money buy that dip where Bitcoin went down to 53K while retail was saying the bull market's over. Oh no, sell everything, right? This is why you don't invest with your emotions. You invest with data, looking at the facts. The other factor I've been saying to you guys that would be a catalyst to help spark the bull market again is the approval of the Ethereum spot ETFs. Well, multiple sources are reporting that there's going to be the approval launch of these ETFs next Tuesday, July 23rd. Eric Balchunas of Bloomberg says he's hearing the SEC finally has gotten back to issuers today, asking them to return final S1s on Wednesday, inclusive of fees, and then request effectiveness on Monday after close for a Tuesday, July 23rd launch. This is provided no unforeseeable last-minute issues, of course. Reuters is also picking this up. So guys, it looks like all these ETFs are going to go live next Tuesday. That's going to be very bullish for the market. Ethereum being the second largest asset in the crypto market. And obviously there's going to be some incredible inflows there. And it also just is very bullish for altcoins because there has been questions for everything outside of Bitcoin. Well, Ethereum getting the approval is bullish. A lot of tokens are actually ERC20. They're built on Ethereum. So very bullish for the entire altcoin market. Now, the other factor, we've been covering it, is that Donald Trump, who is very pro crypto, he's going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference next week. And today he announced his vice president pick, and that is pro crypto Ohio Senator JD Vance. Now, as usual, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I'm just presenting the facts, and I let you make your own decisions and conclusions from that. So I don't know if you guys like JD Vance or not. That's not the point. The point is, we are seeing crypto become ubiquitous. It's in politics, it's in TradFi, it's everywhere now. It can't be ignored. If you're a politician, you have to have an opinion, whether it's for or against. You can't ignore it anymore. And that is what I'm here for, guys, that this thing is on the rise. I'm early and I have the ability to make incredible returns. Well, majority of the population is not paying attention. They go by headlines from Jim Cramer and different people, and they don't actually do their own research. And this is why financial education is important. You have to do your own research. Even what I'm telling you here, go and validate it. I want you guys to do that because I want to be on the same page with you. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to make up fairy tales and stories. I want to make money and I want to see you guys make money as well. So this is very bullish news, guys. And you may say, well, who the hell is JD Vance, right? What's his stance on this? Well, Eleanor Turret of Fox Business did a great job summarizing. So he's very pro crypto. I've actually followed him on Twitter where I've retweeted some of his stuff, but he voted to repeal SOB 121. He slammed the SEC for their debt box incident. In 2023, he introduced a bill to improve bank regulation and make sure customers like crypto firms and gun manufacturers are not discriminated against. So essentially, he was against Operation Choke Point 2.0, which I cover in my book, of course. In 2022, Vance disclosed Bitcoin holdings of up to 250K. So he's a believer. He's not bullshitting, right? This is incredible, guys. And let me play a clip here because there's a video clip that's circulating on Twitter showing him condemning Gary Gensler. So let me play it here for you.
If there's a candidate for worst person, in my view, at least in terms of my substantive disagreements, I'm sure he's like a nice guy, is Gary Gensler. Okay, so Gary Gensler is sort of the complete opposite of my view. And there are two problems that I have with Gary. One of which is that I think he wants to inject politics way too much into the actual business of securities in the United States of America. But in some ways, the more fundamental issue, or at least the most relevant issue for this particular conference is the approach that Gary has taken to regulating blockchain and crypto seems to be almost the exact opposite of what it should be. And I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but the question the SEC seems to ask in regulating crypto is this a token with utility? And if it's a token with utility, then they seem to want to ban it. And if it's a token without utility, they don't seem to care. I almost think we should be the opposite here, right? I worry about financialization. I worry about, frankly, whether a lot of the crypto stuff is fundamentally fake. But if a token actually has utility, that's the sort of thing that, by all means, regulate it. By all means, be careful about, how consumers interact with it. But you don't want to just get rid of this stuff. And here's where I really, really worry about this is a lot of the newest challengers to social media, the social media incumbents of 2024 are going to require some blockchain technology to make their business work. Maybe they'll require a token that supports verification. There are all of these ways in which the companies, when I talk to sort of friends who are still in the VC industry, the companies that are most exciting to them, they're doing actual things in communications in the 21st century, in 2024, I should say. Those companies very often rely on high utility tokens to do things like verification. Well, if we're not making it possible to do verification, then we're going to make it really hard to challenge the existing incumbents in the space.
So there you heard it, folks. Pretty incredible, right? He's actually well-spoken about the issue. He articulates his thoughts very well. And he called out Gary Gensler, saying he's made this thing political. He's saying, look, he's probably a nice guy, but when it comes to this stuff, he's off base, right? He's off his rocker. So JD knows what he's talking about here. This is incredible stuff. Now, let's talk about Uncle Larry Fink. Guys, Blackrock CEO Larry Fink went on CNBC today. Now, as always, I like to share different perspectives with you guys on when these things happen. Have you ever seen Larry Fink go on TV when the price is crashing? Nope. He goes on TV when the price is moving up because He is trying to obviously sell his book, talk his book, right? Look, everybody does that. But the point is, this is a signal of the reversal trend that we're headed to higher highs. We saw this in the lead up to the Bitcoin ETF approvals and much more, guys. So I hope, on this podcast that I'm helping to open your eyes to certain things and how narratives are set and how the game is played. Look, it is what it is. I'm not hating. This is how things have gone, and everybody talks their book, right? Depending on the token or stock that you hold, you talk your book. So that's what Larry's doing here. But guys, he made some very bullish statements stating that Bitcoin is a legitimate financial instrument and Bitcoin has a role in everyone's portfolio and much more. Let me play the clip here for you.
Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means. So you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of a deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
I couldn't agree more. I changed my mind about it when you did.
So there you have it, folks. He also highlighted that he was a skeptic and that he was a big time skeptic. Remember, he said Bitcoin was a tool for money laundering going back to 2018. Now a full 180, right? It's incredible. Now, BlackRock obviously is super bullish on crypto. They have the Bitcoin ETF. They have filed for an Ethereum ETF. They're going to get that next Tuesday. They are also tokenizing on Ethereum, and they are custodying Circle's USDC reserves. So big stuff here, folks. This is incredibly bullish. The world's largest asset manager is doing this. I hope you see what's going on, and be thankful that you're here so early, because there's a lot of people that are going to FOMO into the dumb money crowd phase of the market and buy the pumps and the euphoric blow off top when that's the time to be selling. But this is once again why financial education is so important, why you need to learn how to read the charts. You don't have to be an expert technical analyst, but you have to know enough to not be fooled and be sucked into the dumb money crowd narrative, right? So I'm trying my best to help new folks who are watching and listening to the podcast so that they can not get dumped on, but make some money. And look, this happens in the stock market too, right? It happens in different markets. This is not a crypto specific thing. Now, something else that's interesting. I've been telling you guys about Michael Dell, right? At Dell Computers or Dell Technologies, excuse me, that I believe Dell is going to announce this year that they have put Bitcoin in their balance sheet. And personally, I think it's going to be over $100 million in cash reserves that they put into Bitcoin. Michael Dell retweeted Larry Fink's interview and says, fascinating #Bitcoin. It's coming. And I think this is the work of Michael Saylor and his Bitcoin for Corporations initiative that he's been doing with many different companies. So I think it's going to be Dell. I think it's going to be some other companies. And these are the things, the news announcements and narratives that are going to pour fuel on the fire here and send Bitcoin and crypto to new highs. It's not going to be the only catalyst, but the point is all of these different factors, the DXY, the money supply, Larry Fink and Blackrock, bullish, Dell and these companies adding Bitcoin in their balance sheets, the ETFs, all of these things are conducive to higher prices. We are in a macro bull market for stocks, crypto, real estate, and much more. So exciting times are ahead. Make sure you have a plan when it comes to what you want to do for cashing out, because I think over the next 12 months, things are going to be nuts. Be prepared because it's going to get euphoric and people are going to forget their plans. But you don't want to forget, you want to leave your emotions at the door and take your profits off the table. And as I've stated before, I plan to take some of those profits, reinvest it into the bloody bear market of 2026, 2027, prepare for the 2028 Bitcoin halving bull market, rinse and repeat, because this type of volatility and returns won't last forever as more money and capital comes into the asset class and it matures. We've seen this with gold and other asset classes, guys. Now, quick word from our sponsor, and that is VeChain, which is one of the top layer one enterprise blockchains out there. VeChain is working with many big brands around the globe. These brands and companies are building decentralized applications, Web3 applications on VeChain. Some of the great attributes of VeChain include it is affordable, secure, scalable, fast, and sustainable. Some of the brands working with VeChain include Givenchy, BMW, Walmart China, PwC, and so forth. So if you'd like to learn more about VeChain, check out the link in the description or go to vchain.org. Now, guys, talk about bull market vibes. South Korea proposes pushing back crypto gains taxation to 2028. Please, will the United States do that? That would be incredible. Imagine not having to pay capital gains on some of your crypto profits, guys. Because in my opinion, capital gains taxes is highway robbery by the government. I don't mind paying my other taxes and so forth because I know it funds the roads and police and fire department and all that, right? Those are things we need, obviously. But I take my already taxed money, I put it into an asset, I make returns, and the government takes a huge chunk of that. That's highway robbery, man. Come on. So the taxation on crypto gains, which was initially scheduled for 2022, is now in discussions to begin in 2028. The South Korean won was the most used fiat currency for crypto trades in the first quarter of this year. Here's a quote from the bill. As at the moment, the investor sentiment for crypto is negative. Most investors are expected to leave the market if the country imposes an income tax on asset that has higher risk than stocks. The bill's description on the South Korean National Assembly's website said so. A 20% taxation on crypto gains was initially scheduled to take effect on January 1st, 2022, but has been pushed back twice so far to January 1st, 2025 due to heavy backlash from investors and industry leaders. So it looks like they don't really have much of a capital gains, or if it's an additional gain percentage that they're being added here to crypto, that would really suck if they're singling out crypto versus a broad capital gains tax amount like we have here in the United States, which, you know, whether it's crypto, stocks, real estate, you're getting hit with this capital gains tax. So very interesting. Now, South Korea is a huge in the crypto market. They a lot of them trade crypto. They get a ton of volume. So let's keep an eye on this. This will be really bullish because it could usher in a ton of more capital into the markets. In addition, there have been rumors that China supposedly is going to open up crypto to their mainland people, their citizens, excuse me. That's very possible because we saw Hong Kong open up retail trading. Hong Kong launched their ETFs, Bitcoin and Ether. So it would make sense that China opens this up. We'll see, but that could bring in a ton of capital, folks. I think has a high probability of happening, given the moves that Hong Kong has made, given that Hong Kong is under China's control. So very bullish news here. We got some news here around Circle's USDC. So Kaliza lands $8.5 million to bring real-time money transfers to Latin America using USDC. So Circle is doing an incredible job of getting adoption with USDC. I interviewed Jeremy Allaire. If you haven't seen that, check out that interview. That interview took place a couple of weeks ago. And we talked a lot about this, the adoption of USDC, and they are framing the USDC as the world's digital dollar. So I think we're going to see incredible growth here of USDC and the stablecoin market. There's some big players entering in. Ripple's going to launch. Also, the guys at Van Eck are going to launch a stablecoin as well. So stablecoin wars are going to heat up. And on that note, there's a big update around Tether USDT. So Tether has hired former chief economist from blockchain sleuthing firm Chainalysis. Paulo Arduino, who I interviewed earlier this year, says Tether's team is getting stronger. At Tether, we constantly invest in making the USDT stablecoin ecosystem safer. Glad to have Philip Gradwell aboard as head of economics, former chief economist at Chainalysis. So pretty big pickup for Tether here, given Philip's background. Folks, that's the news. Very bullish. I hope you're bullish as I am. Be patient, have a strategy, know what you're doing, of course. Study the charts, do your own research. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my free email newsletter on Substack. Link will be in the description. Also, grab a copy of my book, Rethinking Crypto, which is available on Amazon in paperback and digital. Grab a copy to support the podcast. Grab a couple copies for your friends and family who want to learn about crypto. It talks about crypto's past, present, and future. It talks about why FTX was not crypto. It includes investment tips into the market so people can be more educated about what they're doing. And guys, if you bought a copy already, please leave a rating and review. It would really help me out. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.